Imagine you are driving home after a long day of chopping, hauling, and muttering about government contracts when a bright light pops up behind a hill and your buddy decides to step out and take a closer look. That is the moment the town of Snowflake, Arizona stopped being just another dot on the map and became ground zero for one of the most debated alien abduction stories in modern American folklore. In November of 1975, 22-year-old forestry worker Travis Walton disappeared while working with a logging crew, only to reappear 5 days later with a story involving a silver disc, beams of blue-green light, humanoid creatures, and hospital-like rooms inside a craft. But before we get too deep into the anatomy of weirdness, if you like strange true stories and enjoy a peek at the margins of belief, subscribe to our channel. Your home's poltergeist will thank you, and your Roomba might finally stop avoiding the hallway.
So for 5 days, a man was borrowed. The story that Travis Walton and 5 other witnesses told was so unbelievable, so unimaginable, that it has become the most famous case of UFO abduction ever reported.
Travis Walton was born February 10, 1953, and spent most of his life in Snowflake, a small town with a name that sounds like a baked good but actually comes from the surnames of its founders, Erastus Snow and William Jordan Flake. Snowflake sits in northeastern Arizona, and until the mid-1970s, it was mostly known for ranches, forests, and people who could locate a lost calf better than a lost cell phone. Travis worked as a forestry hand, dating Dana, who happened to be the sister of his boss on that particular contract, Mike Rogers. Small towns breed small circles, and this crew of loggers were more than co-workers. They were friends, family by proximity, and people who spent long days shoulder to shoulder, battling undergrowth and bureaucratic deadlines. Mike Rogers was the veteran on the crew, a contractor with 9 years of experience with the United States Forest Service. The job in November 1975 was a big one, thinning scrub brush and undergrowth over a 1,200-plus acre section of the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest near Snowflake. To catch up on the schedule, Mike put together a crew of 7 men. Himself, Travis Walton, Ken Peterson, John Gillette, Steve Pierce, Alan Dallas, and Dwayne Smith. They were the kind of crew that started at dawn, wrapped up at sunset, and knew how to make a bad pot of coffee taste like a triumph. Still, they were behind schedule, which made every extra minute in the field feel important, and every strange light in the woods feel like either a hazard or an omen. On the evening of November 5th, 1975, after a hard day's work, the crew piled into Mike's truck around 6 in the evening. As they drove away, they saw bright glimmers of light behind a hill and assumed there might be a fire. There was no smoke. As they got closer, they saw it in the trees.
The guys started seeing a light through the trees.
A metallic disc-shaped object hovering in a clearing, silver-colored, roughly 8 feet thick and about 20 feet across.
Dennis!
Casting a glow that made the night look like a studio set. Travis, ever the curious type, jumped out of the truck despite his mates yelling at him to get back in. The disc made a turbine-like noise, and when it began to wobble, a blue-green beam of light shot out and struck Travis. Witnesses say the light threw him at least 10 feet and he landed unconscious. The men panicked and drove away, later claiming they saw the object lift up and head toward the horizon. When they returned to search, no Travis was found, only a forest that suddenly felt far less ordinary. Initial reports came in that night. Ken Peterson called the sheriff's office around 7:30 p.m., and Deputy Chuck Ellison met the shaken crew at a shopping center in Heber. The deputies heard a story that sounded like a script for late-night television, and yes, there was skepticism. Sheriff Marlon Gillespie arrived to hear the story in person. Some crew members were too distraught to return to the scene. Others insisted on tracking down their friend, perhaps hoping to find him cold but alive. The search grew with police, volunteers, and a general atmosphere equal parts worry and disbelief. Still, the forest offered no clues, no burn marks, no bloodstains, no torn clothing, nothing to account for how a man, apparently flung through the air by a shining light, could vanish without a trace. The same questions kept surfacing. Was it an accident, a murder, or had Travis simply become lost in the freezing night? Individual interviews with the 6 remaining crew members produced consistent, detailed descriptions of the object and the events leading up to Travis's disappearance. Their willingness to take lie detector tests suggested confidence in their accounts. On November 8th, 3 days after the incident, and with Travis still missing, P.S.Y. Gilson, a polygraph examiner from the Arizona Department of Public Safety, administered tests to the crew. The questions were straightforward. Did any of them harm Travis? Did they know where his body was buried? And were they telling the truth about seeing a UFO? 5 of the men passed the tests, while one, Alan Dallas, was unable to complete his test, rendering his result inconclusive. Gilson concluded that 5 of the 6 men were truthful, and his report indicated these men had not injured Travis nor concealed his body. That conclusion helped cement the official perception in some quarters that something more unexplained than a simple forest accident had occurred. Word spread fast, and Snowflake was soon flooded by reporters, ufologists, tourists, and skeptics, creating an impossible scene for forensic investigation. The town's marshal suggested it was a prank involving a balloon, while his wife dismissed the idea as implausible. The sheriff, having heard the polygraph results and the consistent testimonies, said he believed the crew's story. But public opinion split, as it often does when the extraordinary collides with the mundane. Some said it was a hoax designed for fame or money. Others whispered about deliberate hiding or a cover-up for a homicide. As theories proliferated, facts got messy under the weight of attention and rumor. Then, 5 days after his disappearance on November 11th, Travis returned. If you were following the tabloids back then, this is the moment the story jumped from local oddity to national obsession. Travis's initial condition was alarming. He was weak, thirsty, in pain, and having trouble breathing. He told a tale of waking up in a place that at first resembled a hospital, attended by 3 figures in orange jumpsuits. As his vision cleared, he realized these figures were not human. What followed was a detailed account of otherworldly beings in enclosed rooms that would make a set designer jealous. Travis described the beings as humanoid, but smaller than average, under 5 feet tall, with domed, hairless heads and disproportionately large brown eyes that contained almost no white. Their skin was soft and marshmallow-like. They had no eyelashes or eyebrows, and their delicate hands lacked nails. When Travis tried to push one away, it recoiled easily, springing back as if he had poked a soft doll.
Looked like smooth, like they had no clear muscles.
Yeah, they were pretty smooth, very light. When I hit the one, it fell back into the other one pretty easily, like he weighed hardly anything.
Like a little kid?
Yeah. That was the most terrifying experience of my life.
He said he was led into rooms that were spherical and dark, with star-like points of light projected on the ceiling, and that he later found himself in a hangar-sized chamber with craft that were apparently larger on the inside. He encountered tall figures wearing blue bodysuits and glassy helmets with bright gold-colored eyes, which sounds like a fashion choice straight from a vintage science fiction paperback. At some point, he found and waved a glass-like cylinder at the creatures as a makeshift weapon, and was led to a separate room where a woman-like figure placed an oxygen mask on his face. He later passed out. He awakened on a cold night at a gas station near Haber, Arizona, and watched as a disc hovered above the highway and then shot away. He had been gone for 5 days, but felt like only hours had passed. Family and friends were relieved, but the aftermath was chaotic. Scientists, journalists, ufologists, and anyone with a notepad descended upon Travis, offering theories, tests, and requests for interviews. The Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, known as APRO, stepped in to arrange medical examinations, financed in part by the National Enquirer, because truth and tabloid circulation have always had an awkward but profitable partnership. Medical tests showed no drugs in Travis's system, and he was generally healthy. Polygraph testing became a battleground. Travis initially disputed how one test was conducted, but he later passed 2 other polygraph tests.
Travis took a lie detector test after he supposedly reappeared, and he flunked it. And he flunked it very badly.
I was in too emotionally overwrought condition to take a test that soon after the incident. By the way, I did take one later, which was passed.
By a less experienced examiner while the boss was out of town.
Well,
the
So there
boss
were
came
2
back.
tests. There were 2 polygraph tests. You failed the first, which was shortly after the alleged incident. And you passed the second, is that what
But
happened?
more than that.
The National Enquirer even awarded Travis and his co-workers $5,000 for what they called the best UFO case of the year. Whether that felt like recognition or a consolation prize in the court of public opinion depends on your appetite for sensationalism. Supporters found validation in polygraph results and witness consistency. Jim Ledwith, among others, argued that the multiple tests and corroborating testimonies pointed toward an actual, unexplained encounter.
If they covered up the fact that he'd failed the first one. The APRO, a UFO group, had paid for it along with the National Enquirer, and when Travis didn't pass, they kept the whole thing secret. There was like a cover-up, Watergate style. You know, they deep-sixed the embarrassing evidence, and then they stonewalled it in public.
Skeptics were not convinced. Philip Glass, a well-known UFO critic, suggested the polygraphs were poorly administered and pointed out inconsistencies in the accounts, implying the possibility of deliberate fabrication for money or fame.
Says this Travis Walton story, and therefore this movie, is a hoax. He's here with us in Washington. He's saying, Phil, that all 7 of these people are lying.
I'm afraid we have to say that on the basis of physical evidence.
Meaning?
Physical evidence that should have been there, but was not. Now,
cognitive psychologist Susan Clancy offered a different explanation, proposing that Travis may have been influenced by media portrayals like the TV movie, the UFO incident, and the famous 1961 Hill abduction case, and that these cultural narratives could have shaped memory and storytelling. Debunkers argued motive, method, and inconsistencies. Believers argued the polygraphs, eyewitnesses, and lack of convicting proof to the contrary. Decades later, no definitive proof has settled the matter, and the debate continues in forums, books, and late-night documentaries. Travis went on to live a life that in some ways returned to the ordinary. He became a foreman at a lumber mill, started a family, and continued to stand by his story. Over the years, he reportedly submitted to 5 polygraph tests, while the entire crew underwent about 11 in total. For many, the Walton case became the poster child for alien abduction lore, a narrative studded with dramatic moments, testable claims, and ongoing controversy. Whether you view it as a genuine encounter, a cleverly staged hoax, or an episode shaped by cultural influences, it remains a story that captures the imagination. Travis later reflected that by stepping out of that truck, he left behind more than just his 6 fellow workers. He left behind a normal life, and that the experience altered him forever. So what do you think? Did a beam of eerie blue-green light do the impossible? Or could a small-town play act a scenario that spiraled into international infamy? Are you team believer, team skeptic, or team prefer to keep your feet on the ground and your eyes cautiously upward? Leave your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed traveling down this strange road with us, subscribe to our channel. Your home's poltergeist will thank you.